Do you think, and this is a good one for CS, over the years, in years gone by, when Paul and I first started in telco, the operators were PTTs and they were government owned, and they had their own massive IT departments. All the innovation was done inside the telcos. Yes, the R&D was done in the telco, and if you came up with something really good, you would sell it to other operators because they were in another country. They weren't competing with you. They were a potential market. AT&T did it so well over the years with their labs, if you remember rightly, in selling the technology, which became, of course, Lucent after that. Now, the question here is, today, it's almost the reverse. We rely on the vendor community, I think, to be the lead innovators. Are they the lead innovators, and would you like to see it any other way as a vendor? Would you like to see the operators coming up with more innovation and for you to deliver the innovation rather than the other way around?
I think that we should have a joint innovation between the vendors and the operators because, yes, there's a perception that it's the vendors that drive, right? Because every single year, there is a big generation of technology coming into the picture, and there will be another investment cycles. But for the past few years, we have seen, yes, this trend somehow drive certain growth for the vendors. But for what we forecast for the next few years, we are living in a very tough business environment. Looking at the financial report from operator point of view, from a vendor's point of view. So this year is the first year that every single vendors are dropping the profit. 80% of us are in loss. So we are lucky enough we are not at loss at the moment, but our profit are dropped 70 to 80%. Right. So that tells us the way we run the telco industry is not into a positive direction. So one of the key trends we see in this region is we see that there will be some consolidation and structure change in the telco, especially in terms of the operators. I have a forecast in our 5 years planning report, is that the operator in this region will slowly evolve into two categories. One is so-called netco. Yep. So they operate the network into an extremely well situation. Yep. So they can run ultra-fast network, ubiquitous, anything technologies, 4G, 5G by this netco. And then there will be another category that call it as ServCo. So they purely focus on the marketing and sales, so innovation, customer experience.
Broadband model, fixed broadband model moving over.
Yes, we see the national broadband models will evolve into the mobile and in the whole industry.
That's interesting.
So for the next, because only if those either one or two netco in a country that will run the network in a more efficient way, then only they have a good margin to survive.
I'm glad you said one or two, because one, we're almost going back to where we were 30 years ago with a single network, single operator, and then it becomes a price issue for the customers.
Yep. So this trend is an opportunity as well as a big threat. Because the investment from the operator is getting less for the next few years.
Yeah, it's not good for you as a vendor.
Yes, as a vendor, the market size is shrinking. It's shrinking.
Okay, so we're looking at ubiquitous one or two networks and then multiple VNOs hanging off it, basically. Yep. Cheryl, what do you think about that?
I tend to agree with that view. I tend to think that the telco service is going to be like a utility, right? Like a utility, it's a pipe, and whether dumb or smart or lean or whatever, but a pipe that enables services. So I do agree that the way to go is a netco, one or two netcos, and with the rest being MVNOs, with various kind of strengths addressing different segments. You could address, you can have some very savvy marketing people. I think Tune Talk is a great example. Very good way of addressing the market with synergies with their other businesses. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to exploit your strengths. For example, in the M2M space, if you do address certain verticals and you serve them well, and you can be an MVNO, that could also be the biggest place. So that's how I see the market would kind
So
of
it's a
drift
segmentation
towards.
market where you
Yes.
specialise in areas.
And you exploit the strengths that you have.
you have.
Yeah.
Wingley, are you doing that? Is that part of your game plan?
No, it sounds very slippery. So I think there are two fundamental problems to that. Number one is that if you go to a NetCo scenario whereby the whole country's ecosystem's innovation cycle is as fast as what a NetCo can do, then you have a problem. We have to realize the fact that telco innovation cycle has been notoriously long, and we can't allow it to get any longer. If you look at the internet innovation cycle, that I think is a benchmark for innovation these days, most of the internet companies' innovation cycle is in weeks, if not months. Telco, on the other hand, is measured in quarters
Yes.
or longer. And if you were to fall back to a NetCo model, then you will get longer.
It's even longer.
Right,
yeah.
so point number one. Point number two is that economically speaking, that doesn't work. Because if you look at the telco game, basic fundamental premise of a telco business model is based on unit cost management. If you have good management of your unit cost, then you have good opportunity to create margin. If your unit cost floor is controlled by someone else, then I don't want to be in that business.
Well, you talk about unit cost. It's probably easier for companies like Redtone to know what their unit cost is because they're paying somebody for the service. But when you're an operator, it's very difficult to determine what your unit cost is. Do you know exactly what it costs you to deliver 1 megabyte of data?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
brilliant, because I tell you what, very few operators can deliver.
I learned early on in my career, and having been trained in the US, it's very important to understand unit costs.
Yeah.
Because telco game is a scale game. And in a scale game, you have to understand your unit costs. If you don't understand unit costs, you scale yourself to death. What's the point?
Wow. How many of your customers know how to get to the unit cost?
Just had a flash because one of my customers did ask me, what's my unit cost? Can you figure that out for
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
So
quite common.
that's one of the bigger problems because the networks are so complex. Unlike what Wing has,
Yeah.
most operators have multiple networks. They do multiple services. It's quite difficult to pin that number down.
Yes, and if you don't know that number, you don't know whether you're profitable. It's
Yes,
a discussion
Or
that comes
where,
up all the time.
Where
your
are you
break points are.
profitable and where are you not profitable?
Yeah.
The thing is that in the last 20 to 30 years, telcos in general have been enjoying EBITDA margin of 40+%.
Yes.
Right? So when you have a margin that comfortable, you don't worry about unit costs.
No.
Unit cost is like, yeah, some of the guy's business. Let the finance guy sort it out. Because as a boss, so long we point to the board, 30-40% I'm collecting 16-month bonus, I'm okay. But that world doesn't exist anymore as you go into the data world. If the data world is being the predominant world when it comes to value creation, you don't have the comfortable voice and telephony SMS type margin, then you forward to a database margin. If the database margin is thin, then you have to manage your unit cost. It becomes very important now.
Farid leaned forward for his microphone. That's always a good sign.
I was going to say, in this country, we still have those margins.
Yeah.
We're still doing
Yeah,
40,
that's
50%
what I call
of it,
bad habits.
I would rather have a bad habit of making 50% of EBITDA than a good habit of 20%. And I think most people...
wake up call is coming, my
people-
friend. Wake up call is coming.
Not as far as we can help it. The new entrants haven't really made much inroads into the big three so far. So far. I'm sure U-Mobile's doing well, maybe 5% market share.
Maybe we
10%
should have
market share.
separated you two. I'm getting worried now.
See, I think that the challenge is that people still look at the world from the lens of a voice-oriented business.
Yes.
And that business is getting foggier by the day. If you don't understand the world going forward is a database business, an internet-based business, then, that's okay.
And voice is
there's
data.
certain folks are welcome to stay in that old world as well.
And
It's okay.
voice has become data. It's a data element now.
It's
a
just a
data
little
service.
tricycle
Yeah.
on the internet pipe when it comes to voice, right?
Boy. Any questions from the floor? Because this is starting to get hot up here. Would anybody like to ask these guys a question before I have to dive in with another controversial one? Oh, thank you, sir. I'll send you the money later. See you at the coffee break. Just a second, we'll need the microphone. Oh, the microphone. Where's the microphone? Oh, we've got them all here. Can you... I'll repeat it.
Is there a population threshold before you need more than one network?
Is there a population threshold before you need more than one network? I know the answer to that, but I'm not going to say it. What do you think? Oh, it's okay. He's asked the question already. Okay.
I think it mainly tied to the regulation decided by government.
Whether there's a threshold,
Yeah, I mean, I do not think whether it's a big country or small country that will decide whether it's a one NECO or two NECO.
oh yeah, if you're doing it that way, I agree. So there you go. Oh, microphone please. The gentleman, same one again. Thanks.
I'll expand on the question.
Yes.
I'm from Australia, so the federally funded NBN, which is going past, I don't know, 4.6 million houses, one of the issues they have is the cost of building that. I don't think too many countries in the world can afford to do that, but you know, that's why I'm asking, is there a population threshold that says Singapore can easily do it because of the demographics and geographics? Australia might not be able to do it. Malaysia may be able to do it, I'm not sure.
It's doing it very well too.
So that's why I'm asking, is there a certain point at which there's enough people or enough houses, or I think it's less regulation because regulation follows the demographics.
And do you know what the figure is for delivering a service to a house in Australia on the NBN network? It's in the $10,000 bracket, isn't it? $10,000 per household to deliver a service. How long does it take to recover $10,000 in our industry, selling data services on a monthly subscription? This is a very good question, because is it the same in Malaysia? Has anyone done that exercise here? I suppose they have done.
I think Malaysia is just about 1/10.
Of that, it is. I
Of that.
think it's about 1/10
Yeah.
of that.
So I think it's not about the population, it's about the economy of scale
Yes.
to deliver that. So whether or not Australia have one NBN or there's a second NBN coming into the pictures, but the cost to deploy is still the same.
Yeah.
So I think the alternative way will be is looking for alternative solution to deploy, rather than stick to the high cost of deployment. So whether or not that business will be sustained, it's a Australian government decision.
I wonder what the Australian government would do if they had a clean palette today, or Singapore, because even Singapore, it hasn't been a smooth rollout in Singapore with a NetCo and a ServCo.
I mean, if you ever rolled out networks, it's never a smooth rollout.
No,
so
it's never a smooth
people kid
rollout.
themselves in the process.
No, Wings was very smooth. If you ask them, they had a great. You had a very quick rollout. How long was
Absolutely,
yours?
and all this grey hair here as well. So, the point is that again, we have to understand. So, there are two parts to your question, right? So, what is the population threshold to support to accommodate additional NetCo? But that's based on the premise that you are thinking about population based on a single user, a single account. But I think the world going forward is that a single person would have more than one accounts, or more than one device that's connected to the internet. And they also have to recognize the fact that there are more and more devices out there that will be connected to the internet without a person behind it. So we have to go beyond population size now to understand the sustainability of a single NetCo.
I was actually thinking of your second point of having more one person with more than one connection and more than one device. And that actually complicates it even further. That's why I'm asking about, there has to be a critical point or a threshold at which these things become reality or become deliverable, if I can put it that way.
But that's assuming that NetCo is a good idea to start with,
I
which
agree.
I think I have some challenges with that. I think that the key point is that you can't rely on a single party to innovate. A free market is the best way to drive innovation and competition, and the consumer oftentimes benefit from free markets.
Yeah, both those models, by the way, Singapore and Australia, are very much focused on the retail service provider attached to it. Not so much a NetCo, ServCo. Here's a network, here's a connection to a home. Anybody can connect to that network in the home. And that's where the competition is coming in. Already in Singapore, the prices have dropped almost to wholesale levels. So who knows what's the value add for somebody selling a connection these days?
I think in Singapore, like you say, we've already introduced quite a lot of new RSPs. You get the very small one, MyRepublic, helping good, cheaper lines. And I think that's also the intent of the government, to drive prices down so that it's competitive. The consumer will use it, and it gets to the market fast enough. Now, in the case of Singapore, I think we've opted for the OpCo, NetCo, and then the infrastructure kind of structure, which is a little bit cumbersome, and that's kind of the interworkings, getting each other to agree on SLAs and so on and so forth, roll out speeds. So that's a little bit of a problem. But in Malaysia, we can see HSBC with TM, they've done quite a good job of just more integrated body, and they've rolled out, I believe now it's already 2 million household home passes right now. So very good job. Right.
Rolling out quickly.
Yeah.
If you were, sorry, you want to say something?
I think, no, with the experience in Malaysia and Singapore, the end result is we get the broadband price into very low. That benefit to everyone, or Malaysian and Singaporean, business and residential. I think that is the end result, good result that we have seen with these two deployments in these two countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.